I'm Linda Bell Reed, and I'm up in my studio today, and I wanted to be able to come on and show you some of what I'm working on. I have decided to start on a new painting, and I want it to be kind of neutral. I wanted to have some color in it, but lots of neutrals, and that's a little different for me. Usually, my practice involves bright, really saturated colors because I paint a lot of flowers. But for some reason, I'm just in the mood to do something a little bit more neutral. And I don't have very many neutral collage papers to work with. So I thought I would make some today, share that with you so you could see my process. And then maybe we could just chat a little bit while I'm working. This is my wet palette that I have here. I work with a wet palette if you've watched some of my other videos. And these are the papers that I thought I would work with. And I just went through some of my old journals. I went through some books that I had that just had blank papers in them, trying to get some interesting papers. So I have a couple, maybe 3 of these. They're kind of thin. I like the way they feel, and I already have this kind of stained area in the middle, which I kind of like. And then these are just thicker, a little bit thicker, and they're perforated, which is kind of interesting. This is just it's more yellow, but it is also pretty thick. Well, it has a little bit of transparency to it, but it's more thick than the last one. These are just ruled papers. See if you can see the ruling on that, which I thought looked kind of cool. This is some index pages from an old business book. Pages are yellowed and aged. And then I have, I think maybe just, maybe 2 ledger pages from an old ledger book. I love to go to like vintage stores and look for old books, particularly ledgers, journals, anything like that. I really like stuff that has people's handwriting on it. But for today, let's just use this. I want to put some unique marks on them. I'm going to do it with paint. I think I would like for all of them to have a little bit of a wash over them because I'd like for them to be unified. So I'm going to start with Titan Buff. This is golden. Titan Buff is a great color. I think I'm going to put out some carbon black so I can make some black marks on the papers if I want to. Okay, we got black. I thought I would also try have this iridescent graphite that I think is a really cool color. A graphite like from a pencil. And then what else did I pull out? White, just plain old titanium white. Put some of that out too. And I'll probably mix some of these together and everything. But to start out, I thought I would lay some of these out and just kind of wash them or whitewash them with titanium white or maybe Titan Buff with Titan Buff and get them where they're all kind of the same base color. And lay these out that way you could see them. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to put what's known as a wash on them. So the very first thing I want to do is I'm using a big brush so it'll go fast. I want my brush to be very wet, not sopping, but pretty wet. I have a spray bottle here as well that I love. I'm going to put a little bit of water in there with that. And I'm also going to put a little bit of gloss glazing liquid. This one is by Golden. So now I have this pretty wet. Okay. So let's just go over this really light. And see it's thin. So you can still see the paper, but it kind of got rid of a little bit of that brown. Just a little bit. Which I may have done it a little bit too transparent. I love the edges of this where it ripped out of the book. Again, the glazing liquid makes it transparent so you can see through it. I don't want to lose all of the writing and the lines and stuff, but I just want the color tone to be toned down a little bit. This has almost a green cast to it. I think this will just make these papers all look like they kind of belong together. Okay, so those are done. We'll move those over. Grab some of the other ones. And now let's do these. See how yellow? I don't know if you can, yeah, they look pretty yellow on that video, don't they? This, I'm not as worried about it being too thick because there's nothing underneath to really show. The other thing that doing this does is just add some additional interest. And one of the things about papers is you really want them to be as interesting as possible because these are collage. And the whole purpose of collage, the way that I use it in my abstract art, is for it to add interest. So if you can see your brush strokes or the color of the paper coming through, that's just more interest. And I think you'll see when I put these papers all back together on the table, you'll see that they just seem like maybe they're a little bit more related to each other because they have this common color on them. I don't know for sure. In fact, I'm probably almost positive that I would not use all of these papers in one painting if it's not a really large painting. But when I'm making papers, I like to go ahead and do several. So, because I have the paint out, I have the brushes out, and I just might as well do it. I did a lot of accounting work in the beginning of my career. Well, actually, my whole career. But in the beginning of my career, we didn't have computers, believe it or not, on our desks. And we did everything on hand ledgers. And so these ruled ledger papers are very reminiscent to me of my early working career. Okay, so that part is done. So let's just wait a few minutes and well, actually, while they're drying, let's talk for a second. Let me flip this back around in my face because I want to talk to you about a couple things. Hi. Okay, so I wanted to, while I was painting, I really wanted to talk to you about how much art has transformed my life. And if you've followed me at all, I am sure that you've heard me talk about the subject. But I didn't start painting until I was about 50 years old. And I'd always been kind of a crafty person, but if you had asked me if I was an artist or if I could paint or draw, if you asked me if I could draw, I would say absolutely not. I have no talent in that realm at all. But I was very interested in it. I had gone to some galleries around that time and met some artists that I really was enthralled with their talent. So I decided to start teaching myself, and I did that. And it took me about 10 years of hunting and pecking all over the internet to find online classes that I was interested in or that I thought, I could keep up with, to learn things. I mean, I didn't know anything about paint. I didn't know the different types of paint. I didn't know the difference. I mean, I knew what watercolor looked like versus oil paint, but I didn't know the proper. I mean, I just didn't know anything. And but I was so interested. So I dug in, spent hours and hours teaching myself. And then later on, I went and took some college classes in art, which really helped kind of round out my knowledge. But it was a process. And so one of the things, now that I'm further along in my career and I'm in painting a lot more, one of the things I really want to do is be able to help people that are interested in art but have no idea where to start, kind of like I was in the very beginning, and help them be able to catapult themselves past a lot of that learning curve. So I'm putting together some courses that will give you a very structured introduction to mixed media art and painting so that you don't spend all that time like I did, yeah, hunting, pecking, uh, what's lost in the internet, watching endless hours of video. Now, don't get me wrong. Watching other artists is wonderful, and I learned a lot doing that. I'm not discouraging you from doing that. I'm just saying I don't want it to take you 10 years to get where I am because art has changed my whole life. It has given me a self-confidence that I didn't have before. It has opened my eyes. I feel like I see the world now and all of its beauty in such a different perspective than I did before. In fact, I was thinking about this. I just got back from a vacation in the Pacific Northwest. We went to see my son and my granddaughters. It's a wonderful vacation, but we went up to the top of the mountain. Mount Baker was the name of the mountain, up near Bellingham, Washington. And, it's the end of the summer there for them. Everything was very green and beautiful. It was a robin egg blue sky day. And I stood up there. Of course, it took my breath away, the beauty. But it made me stop and think about how, before I became a visual artist, when I looked at that picture, when I looked out over the horizon and saw the mountaintops, the snow against the green, the blue sky, all of those things, I never really saw it. I mean, I said, "Oh, isn't that pretty? That's beautiful." But I didn't notice the things like, wow, look at the depth of those greens in those trees up next to the light blue sky. I didn't say, look at the texture of the pine needles on the trees next to the snow on the mountains. I didn't make any of those observations. And so I would come back down the mountain and I would go, yeah, that was beautiful. But it really was not etched in my mind because I didn't notice all the details. But as I became an artist, all of those things, it's like all of a sudden the world is electric, kind of popping for you visually because you see all of that and you notice it and you think, oh, how do I make that color? And it's so blue or it's purple or it's pink, whatever the color is. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but boy, it has changed everything for me. And what I want to say to you too is that you don't have to wait any longer. If you're interested, I can help you get started. So let's get back to our papers and I'll talk to you some more as we go. But there's some other benefits to art that people don't think about. A big one is that it helps relieve stress and anxiety. It kind of puts you in the now, in the present, because you have to be paying attention to what you're doing. It cuts you off from, the internet, all of the electronics, where it's just you, your hands, your materials, and your art and your expression. So I really feel like at this time in the world where we are as a human race, that getting back in touch with those things, because we've kind of gotten away from it, I think, as a society, getting back in touch with those things is so important. And it's important to each of us individually for our individual health. So that was just one other thing I wanted to bring up. That's a huge advantage of art. So meanwhile, not to bore you with all my talking, let's get back to actually doing. These are not completely dry, but they are certainly dry enough. So I thought maybe what I'd like to do, well, first let me lay these out. There's quite a glare on them, but what it has done is it's kind of toned down some of the undercolors of the old papers and made them all look like they belong together better. So if I was to use these in the same piece of art, they would just have a little bit more that tied them together. Let me see if I can pick this up for you. So instead of you looking at this piece of paper on a piece of art and going, oh, I need to read that, you kind of go, oh, look, you can kind of see the writing and kind of not. And then, of course, I'm going to put marks over the top of that too. So there's all different ways you can do mark making. You can leave the papers just like this, and these would work as collage in a piece of art just fine. And I may leave a couple of them, but you can also just make marks on them and make them a little bit more interesting. So I thought maybe I would try this graphite color here. Might be just putting a little bit of the graphite color on a brush. This brush is a flat, meaning it has a flat end, because I just want to do some loop-de-loos. Keeping in mind that most of these pieces of paper will not be placed whole on a piece of art. They'll be torn, there'll be pieces, all kinds of uneven pieces. That's pretty cool though, and that mixed with the tight and buff, I kind of like that. And then on this one, for something different, let's just do some tick marks. You can tell I'm not being exact. I don't care if they get lighter as I go. This is a great activity to do when you really don't know what you want to do. You just want to get out in your studio. You don't want to think a lot. You want to relax and just have some fun creating. This is a great exercise, making these papers to do when you're kind of in that kind of a mood. Super simple to do. Nothing has to be, exact. You can notice I'm being kind of random here. Some are larger than others. Well, some people, their personality, you may want to have your marks exact, all perfect. But I'm not that kind of artist. I'm a lot more intuitive and free-handed. Good. Okay. So now we have two really cool scrapbook papers, or not scrapbook papers, collage papers. What I was going to say is you can always buy paper, like from scrapbooks for scrapbooking, and you can use those papers. I just happen to think it is so much more fun to make them. So let's see. I don't want to use graphite again. Let's use straight black this time. And let's just do circles. I love this black that's so bold and so beautiful on this old paper. So to come off the edge. Okay. All right. That piece is done. Set it over here. We're going to look at all these together in a few minutes. Okay, what do I want to do on this one? I think I'm going to try to do something that's called asemic writing. And asemic writing, I'm sure which end of this pen I want to use, is, yeah, it's this one, is writing that's just, it doesn't, you can't read it. You can't make sense of it. It's really just, you can kind of watch me. It's just you letting your hand freely move around the paper. It resembles writing in some ways. But I mean, I am crazy about how it looks. And I'm also really fond of how it feels. That's good. I think I'm going to use white on this one. I don't know if I do it like a white brush. Let's see. If I just kind of put some stripes. Okay, here we go. Hope you can see that. I'm just making white stripes on this paper. But you still see the ruling from the ledger page. And I love that about it. It almost looks like a plaid. Because it has these lines coming down this way. I like that these lines are not perfect. Okay, there's that one. It's striped. I love, love, love. If you look close at my paintings, you'll know that I love stripes. In fact, I think I only had one of those. I thought I had two. Yep, here's the other one. I think I'm going to go up and do this one in stripes too. Now, this paper, because it was only wet on one side, it's starting to curl. So I want these stripes to go this way. This video gets too long or too drawn out, I will speed it up a little bit while I'm doing this. But I don't know about you, but I used to just love to watch people paint. It was very satisfying to me, very relaxing to watch. In fact, not used to. I still love to do that. There we go. Okay, that's two stripes. Let's see, what else do I want to do? Maybe I'll do some white. Kind of squares. Again, I'm not trying to be exact or make these perfectly square. And then I think what I'd like to do, if I can make it work, since the paint, I may wait for the paint to dry, but I think I might come back and make some marks on this page. Let me let that dry. Okay, so you see we have stripes, we have circles. I really like these circles. We have asemic writing. There's some swirls. There's some white squares on ruled paper. And then we just have some squares, little squares, like tick marks all over that one. Now you can imagine that eventually, when we use these papers all together, or even, one or two of them together, they're much more, they look more like a family. They harmonize much better because we use the same color scheme. And you can imagine these on a canvas, how cool they would look, as they're put down. So just remember that painting can be as easy as this. I mean, this is just one step. This is just making collage papers. But as you build your knowledge of different things, different skills like this, you'll begin to realize that it is just the most wonderful feeling to be able to make something that wasn't there before and then be able to use it, in your art as you go forward. It's that one and that one. This and that. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope you will continue to follow these YouTube videos. I'm going to be showing you how I use these papers. I'm going to be showing you everything I know about art. So hang out with me here on YouTube. I'm just getting started, so bear with me, but it's a good time for you to get started with me since I'm just getting started. So welcome. I'm glad you're here. Again, I'm Linda Bell Reed, and I'll see you next time.